We are here with Haiduk, who has crawled up out of the shadows and graced us with his presence to speak with us on this rare occasion.
Thank you for having me here. These are very nice surroundings.
How long have you been playing music in general?
Music I've been playing probably about 15 years, give or take. That's when I started playing guitar. And yeah, 15 years, give or take. I'm sure there were some breaks in between that, probably for a year or so in between, but yeah.
And how long has Haiduk been an active project for you?
I started Haiduk in 2009, and it was just a combination of different factors that part of it was I was actually writing reviews for this metal website, and I was actually just criticizing everything all the time. There was always something wrong with it, something I thought should be done differently. So eventually, one of the things I just said, basically, you know, if I want to hear the kind of metal that I think really kicks ass and sounds the way I want to hear it, I'm just going to make it myself. And I already had a lot of material ready to go, so that's what turned into the demo, Plague Swept 2010.
Have you always been a solo musician?
It's always been just me. I don't see too much necessity in working with other people. I have a lot of ideas about where I want to take the project, what I want to do with it, exactly how it wants to sound. I mean, it's hard enough for me to please myself with the stuff I make. I'm always still critical even of the stuff that I make to a degree. So it's about trying to aim for that perfect sort of sound, and I just don't feel like involving anybody else would actually help me achieve that. I think I know what I want to do.
So as a musician, who are your big influences and what was your main inspiration?
There's a lot of influences. The earliest influences for me metal-wise are it's all thrash metal, so it started off with just Slayer, Megadeth, Sepultura, that kind of stuff, and then eventually it started getting a little bit heavier. I moved into more death metal. You listen to thrash for a long time, eventually you get to a point where it's not fast enough, it's not heavy enough, so it's kind of like a drug. You want something stronger, so eventually I found I like death metal, as well as black metal. There's a lot of influences from fantasy books, things like that, so that's where you'll see it reflected in a lot of the themes. It's all fantasy based.
So is there any particular message that you want people to get from your music, or is it more of a personal expression and people should get their own thing from it?
There's not really a message. I mean, there's a lot of songs that have a certain storyline, that have a certain concept, a certain essence. There's no real message that I'm trying to change your life. It's just it's music that has a lot of aggression, a lot of energy, a lot of darkness. It's meant to draw you in and let you escape from the real world. But in terms of messages, it's not like there's some sort of underlying message or anything specific. It's just about enjoyment and escape.
Where do your song titles come from? They're very unique titles.
Yeah, song titles, depending on which album, like for the last album, Demonicon, there were a lot of questions about song titles. A lot of them starting with, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this? Because just basically, they were names that I came up with for individual demons. And that's all based on a fantasy world setting that I've been developing for a very long time. And there were some plans to write a fantasy novel for a long time, and that's where the map for Demonicon came from. So I don't really think I have the patience to write a fantasy book, although that might happen one day, but the names were created and there are characters within that world. So that's for Demonicon. The previous release, like the spellbook, the song titles represent the individual spells, but they also represent, I tried to make the song titles reflect what the song actually musically sounds like and how it's composed. So for example, like the song Hex, that entire note is written in triplets and hextuplets, so every riff is actually a multiple of 3. A song like Lightning, the intro there is actually supposed to sound kind of like crackling electricity or like sparks. Firewheel, like with the sort of like intense notations, meant to sort of sound like the intensity of a fire. So whether people see that or not, I try to name the songs aptly so they represent the songs about and how it sounds.
So tell me about your upcoming newest album. It's your third, correct?
It's going to be the third full-length from Haiduk, and it's being recorded right now. I'm working with an artist right now to get the album cover and the concept all done. But it's going to be a really interesting album. It's going to have some of the best elements of all the different haiduk releases. It's got a lot of speed. It's got a lot of the black metal riffs from Demonicon. It also has it kind of harkens back a little bit to death metal, like traditional death metal. So Demonicon went really into kind of a black metal direction, and this one goes back a little bit to haiduk's roots. So you'll hear a little bit more chugging riffs, but a lot of speed as usual. There's a little bit different guitar tone. It's a little bit sharper now, so things will sound a little bit different. It's a little bit of like a rebirth of the sound, but it's going to be ready hopefully at near the end of the year here. But it's going to be a pretty good one.
So do you do your own mixing and recording since you do everything independently? Yeah,
the recording. I've been recording for the last several months, and it's still going to be a few months still recording it. So. Yeah, recording everything myself. I'm probably going to mix everything myself. Try to do the drums a little bit differently. Try to make the drums a little bit thicker, to have a little more bottom end, so we can do some layering with that. But yeah, essentially I do as much of it as I possibly can. The mastering is one thing I usually leave to somebody who's more of an experienced engineer. But in terms of the mixing, again, I don't really like letting someone else mix it because they could completely miss the point of what I was trying to go with the album. Mixing is such a big thing that if you're going to write the whole thing and record the whole thing, you've got to mix it the way you want it to sound, otherwise it won't translate the way you were originally hoping.
So would you say you're trying to evolve your sound, or are you trying to go for a same sound over time to sort of keep a haiduk feel?
Well, the sound's always going to have a haiduk feel because it's always me behind it, and whether I probably have certain limitations as well as certain tendencies that are always going to be part of the sound because that's just how I play guitar. But in terms of evolution, yeah, of course. I mean, it's always going to evolve a little bit. I always try to make every album better than the last, and I try to do something that's different, something that I'm not seeing is being done out there. So with Demonicon for the last album, I tried to do something a little bit different, whereas I tried to really go into a lot of sort of spidery scales and a lot of really fast riffing on sort of on one string, because I feel like there's a lot of unexplored, uncharted area that you can go and create some new sounds using that, as opposed to just playing chords, because with chords you got to play them a little bit slower, and so much stuff has been done. When you're playing really fast and hitting tons of notes, I think there's a lot of room there that you can really come up with some really interesting new sounds. On the new one, what I'm really going for is a lot of dual guitars, so two guitars playing two different melodies that come together in a way that really creates an atmosphere that creates something that much greater than the sum of its parts. Something that just comes together and just really adds something that wasn't there before. It wasn't there on either one of the guitars, but once you combine them together, it creates an absolutely amazing sounding thing. So I think that's where I'm trying to actually do something slightly different from before, so it's going to evolve in that way.
So when will your new album be available, and where can we find it?
Right now it's too early to give you an exact release. It's going to have 10 songs. I'm currently maybe about halfway through, a little bit past halfway through on the guitar recording, so late 2018 it should be out.
Do you have any plans for any upcoming shows?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be shows. Once the album is released, then of course there's going to be shows to promote that. There's going to be a CD release show, but not until the album's out.
So do you have any plans for the future? Are you already planning out a fourth album?
No way. I mean, that's way too far away. I don't plan that far ahead. Right now, all the focus is on this upcoming release. There's a lot of stuff to get ready for in terms of how it's going to be promoted and how it's going to be marketed and how it's going to be set up. So, yeah, no plans for that.
Well, we're really excited to hear your upcoming album. Thank you very much for coming out and talking to us.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a lovely surroundings.